welcome to another episode of the Stepfamily Saturday Series. Today we are continuing the discussion with Erica Means Shimwell, mom and stepmom from the TLC show The Blended Bunch on Discovery Plus.
You already kind of touched on extended family a little bit when we were talking about the, Spencer's move to Utah, but so we're curious, how did you guys decide when you would introduce each other to your extended families and when you would introduce the kids to the extended families? What kind of factors did you consider?
Where that kind of looked I'm trying to remember when we did. So I actually did not meet myself and my children, Spencer's extended family, until after we had been married, just based on everyone being out of state and the difficulties of trying to be able to fly back and forth with the amount of kids we have and trying to find babysitters even. So unfortunately, I hadn't met most of the extended family when it comes to Spencer's family and his kids. But in my instance, since most of my family's close, or at the time, and now everyone is, my family met Spencer pretty quick, actually. We would get together with play dates, and my dad was doing some remodeling work, and that's what Spencer does for a living. Is he's a contractor and remodels homes, and so he came and helped my dad a few times. So they had been introduced to him in a really kind of informal level. But it wasn't until we were very seriously dating and knew we're going to get engaged that I introduced Spencer to the rest of my family, to my siblings, and also the kids to my parents and to my siblings. Once we knew that this was going to be something long-term, that's when we decided we put the effort into trying to create those relationships.
That's incredible. Speaking of building relationships, how have you and Spencer built relationships with each other's kids and maintained the relationships you have with your own biological children? 11 kids is no small group there.
Right.
So we're curious what some of your tips and strategies for others are in that area.
Yes, definitely no walk in the park with a lot of kids. I think I always say whether it's one child or 11 child, it's still so much work. The same amount of work, it just looks different. It's been a lot of communication between Spencer and I, a lot of throwing back ideas of what to do to be able to build those relationships. So before we were married, I had lots of opportunities to actually kind of babysit Spencer's kids when he was helping my dad with remodel work. I actually watched his kids a couple of times when he was out with friends and things like that. So I was able to spend some time with him. But once we were married, there's just so much going on that we really struggled with trying to get that one-on-one time with our own children and with each other's kids. We tried to schedule in dates. We're like, okay, once a week, every Friday, we're going to, you're going to take a child out, and then I'm going to take a child out the next week. But before you do that, we each have to go out with 11 kids times 2. That's 22 weeks. We can't wait 22 weeks to spend some one-on-one time with the child. So we decided to kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone. So I'm going to the grocery store. Okay, I'm going to take my stepdaughter with me, and she's going to come grocery shopping with me, which he's excited and thrilled to do. And so he's going to go run and get a car wash and get the oil change. Okay, he's going to take, my oldest son with him, and then they can have some one-on-one time. So we just kind of built in that one-on-one time into our regular routine of things that we needed to get done to be able to make our family work. And we focus especially on our new kids, on our step kids to the beginning. And then that's when we realized it's something that surprised me, that yes, your own kids are kind of like, hey, I want mom, or hey, I need dad. Specifically Spencer's oldest son, we were seeing in it, he was so used to lots of one-on-one time with his dad that we had to make a really conscious effort to spend that time with him. So that's how we've made it work for us. We just do a lot of informal things constantly, even if it's, I'm running around the house, picking up clothes, doing laundry. I'll just have one of the kids come with me and talk with me while I do it. And then just like I said, with the open communication, letting the kids know that, we're trying our best, that we're always available for them. I had to have that talk with some of my older kids, explaining, I'm trying to build these bonds with your new step siblings, but I'm still here for you always. So if you need to come and get me, you say, hey, mom, stop cooking dinner. Dinner can wait 20 minutes. Let's go have some time and talk. So that's been really helpful for us.
I love that it's not predicated on having to have these big fancy plans or go out
Yeah.
and do things to spend tons of money or plan vacations, that it's about how do we spend time together and build relationships, just doing normal everyday things as a family or one-on-one or two-on-one. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the things we really love when we watch the show is how you and Spencer are so open with the kids. You embrace the fact that they want to talk about their late parent, and you guys have Amy and Tony is almost part of the family still, there's pictures up and things like that. We all three of us were like, oh, we love this so much. So, but in those conversations, sometimes we know that as moms and stepmoms, it's not always easy to hear what that other child has to say because, it can be kind of hard sometimes to hear. So what self-care do you use to process through those conversations in a healthy way?
So I think a good example of that is there's often, and I imagine even with divorced families too, comparison with the other parent, right? And I think that's kind of what we're talking about. And so the kids obviously will a lot of time, well, my mom used to cook this way, and my mom's better at cooking, and my mom was better at this. And it's pretty casual, and they're young still. So I know it's lighthearted, and they don't mean any animosity towards me, especially because I do have relationships with them, and they also are very kind and complimentary in other times. So my biggest thing is I have a really good friend who's widowed and remarried as well, to a widower, and she has become my confidant, that if I am struggling with something, or a child has said something and I have chosen to take offense to it, I will call her up and I'll say, hey, this happened and I feel like I'm living in a shadow today. Like, I just need to be heard and validated by her. Mm-hmm. I can do that with Spencer. We have an open up relationship because sometimes he deals with the same things, but I need to hear it from another mom and another woman. And so that's the biggest self-care I have when pertaining to that is to reach out to friends that understand or have been in similar positions as me. And just to be able to talk and to get validated. I also have a really good friend that lives close by, and she usually once a week we try to get together, even if it's just for a smoothie really quick or lunch or just a little 10-minute, I need a hug. And so that's been my biggest self-care, is just connecting with other people who can validate me.
I love how you said how I choose to hear what they said. It's how I'm interpreting it and the stories we tell ourselves. So I love that that's how you addressed it, is this is what I'm telling myself that I'm hearing. And then you reach out to someone that is, it's so important because, and we talk about communication all the time with our clients, and we're like, you're putting more story to it than there actually is. Yes. So I love that you've got those other people that you can go, okay, here's how I'm feeling. And then they can kind of talk you off the ledge sometimes.
Right.
Well,
we're always telling ourselves our worst stories. The reality is always much better than what we're telling ourselves.
So true.
Right. And you have that self-awareness to be aware of it first and foremost, and then the outlets to be able to do something about it, which is incredible.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we know firsthand the challenges that can arise when you're navigating family relationships, and how it can be that much more in blended families. So we're curious, how did you and Spencer navigate family boundaries within your families?
With the extended families or just our core?
How did you guys kind of come to a conclusion together or independently? How did that look for you guys?
We did a lot of outreaching to other blended families before we got married to kind of talk about what has worked for them with boundaries with their kids and with extended family. And so it was definitely a lot of trial and error as well. When we were married, we kind of set some clear rules for the kids of expectations of the boundaries we needed, and some of the times the privacy that we needed as a couple. We needed to let them know, hey kids, we love you. We're here for you first and foremost, but above that, we got to make our marriage work. So if our marriage isn't working, no one's going to be happy. And so we laid some big ground rules down that we needed, a weekly date night. We needed to have 8:00, everyone's in bed because it's mom and dad time. And then also at the same time, letting them know that we're available all day for them. So those were some of the boundaries that were first and foremost the most important thing within the walls of our own home. As it came to extended family, that was a little trickier because our kids went from just having, a few grandparents to we actually have a lot of blended families in the extended family. So they have 11 living grandparents now. And so
wow,
it's quite a bit. One has passed away. It was actually my late husband's mom passed when she was really young. So they have 11 grandparents and several great grandparents that are living, and aunts and uncles and cousins. And so we have a ginormous family. And that was really difficult, that those first holidays, my family was used to me spending every holiday with them. And my late husband's family was used to me spending, the half of every day of the holiday with them. And then we've got Spencer's aunt and uncle who live here and grandma. And so we're trying to navigate how to spend time with everyone and make it work. And so finally we had to put down some rules and, hey, we love you all and we want to spend time with you all. But on holidays, we need to have some of our own time because we just can't be running around everywhere. But we also want to spend time with everyone. So we'll stretch out our holidays. So like this Memorial Day, we're spending half the day with family, half the day with another family. And then the night before, we're going to spend with a different part of the family. And so it's just letting them know, this is a challenge for us. This is what we intend to do. We're intending that we have these great intentions to be with you. But it's a challenge. And being like we talked about, the open communication of this is our struggle. This is what we think the solution is. And then getting feedback from them on what they think will work. And that is, across the board of any struggles we've had, that has worked really well.
Imagine that. It boils down to communication again.
It does. It's
amazing how many of the issues within step and blended families really can boil down or be solved with communication.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I know we've talked about so many different areas and aspects, and you've shared a lot, which we're grateful for. I'm curious if you have any other tips from lessons that you've learned about blending two families, or what are some of your biggest takeaways when you reflect back on the last couple of years for your family?
Okay. I knew coming into a blended family that it would be difficult. Just talking with other people, and I understand that the difficulties of trying to learn boundaries and understanding new children that you haven't had since birth. But I have been very surprised that it's much more challenging than I thought it would be. As generally speaking, I love kids. I love being around kids. I've been around kids all my life. My younger siblings, I felt like I was their second mom. I love being a mom. I love mothering. But when it really boils down to, I was definitely stretched and pulled in new ways that it's just, even though it's easy to love a child, sometimes it's difficult to look at yourself and to evaluate if you're showing that love in the way that they need. And that was something that was really difficult for me, because for my 7 kids that I had, it was just so easy to show love, and I knew they felt loved. I knew that they were feeling, I knew what they needed. But with my 4 new step kids, I feel like I was showing them love and doing these things when really it may not be received that way. And so it was a big point in my parenthood life that I needed to step back and evaluate, okay, I'm here to take care of these kids, as much as they need me, I need them as well, because this is a relationship that goes back and forth. It's just not me giving. And I need to take from them the love that they're giving me and the heart that they're giving me, and evaluate so that I can reciprocate positivity. So it didn't just boil down to just loving a kid. It definitely was something deeper than that understanding the different hurt and the different trials that these kids have come through, and realizing they deserve to be loved like I am their mother, not just because their mom's gone, but because they're these beautiful, wonderful kids. And I would want that for my own kids, and that I needed to take that love that I just naturally have for mine and push that same amount of effort and love and affection towards these kids in the time that they're ready, because they deserve it and they're amazing. And unfortunately, their mother's not here physically to do that. And so I get to be her hands, and I get to do that for her. So it's been, a very big, huge trial, but it's also been like one of the most greatest blessings. And I have grown so much and learned to love in a deeper way than I imagined was possible.
Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. I literally have chills. So I just, as a mom and a stepmom, I think we can all relate to that just wanting to do our best and be present and show up for our kids in the best way that we can be and give them the best version of ourselves. And to see other moms and stepmoms work through those trials and challenges to come out the other side is incredibly beautiful.
Thank you.
So you talked just now about, loving these kids. There's that extended family. I'm going to kind of circle us back to extended family, grandparents and that. Do you have tips and strategies for the extended family on how to incorporate a little bit more? Because you guys all, you did play dates and all of that. It's not always like that. Mm-hmm. So it can be that there's that awkward, how do we all fit together now in this new puzzle? So do you have any tips for grandparents, for aunts and uncles to kind of help navigate that weird, that weird phase of getting to know you, but not really?
Right, the weird transition.
Yeah, like, oh, you're a part of our family now. All of a sudden, you just showed up, kind of thing.
It's like the day happened. A piece of paper says we're family, so we're family now. So yes, yes, it's been really eye-opening, and I've learned a lot watching all different sorts of members of our extended family and how they've reacted to this. Because, like I said, a lot of my family got to be around Spencer and his kids. But that was not the case with everybody. Most of the family wasn't that way. We had met Spencer's late wife. Her name is Amy. Her mother, Rachel, I think 3 or 4 months after our wedding. We hadn't even met yet. We'd done some FaceTiming and some things like that, but we hadn't met in person. So she flew out. I have to tell a story just so I can get my point across. She flew out for spring break to spend the week, which I can imagine coming in, flying from Virginia to Utah. She probably was going through so many different emotions, understanding that her son-in-law had remarried and just the amount of grief that goes along with that. But, she probably was thinking to herself, what if I hate this woman? Like, what if I don't like her? What if I don't like the kids? That she has been next, alongside with my parents, so wonderful. And she understands, okay, I know these kids and Erica already have their family and they don't need me, but this is an opportunity for us to learn that we need each other. That family is it's just not this perfect little box. You need your siblings and your parents. It takes a village to raise a child. And she has been really great about being really open in her communication. Like we talking about asking us, okay, what do you need? What makes the kids comfortable? What doesn't make the kids comfortable? What can I do to support you and to build relationships with the kids that are appropriate to how they're feeling? So our younger kids very happily called everybody grandma and grandpa from the start, or aunt or uncle. And to them, the next door neighbors, their sibling, they don't even care. But to the older kids, it was a little bit more difficult. My oldest daughter, she really struggled with, okay, I already have a grandma and grandpa. Why do I need more grandparents? And so we had to have lots of discussions with her about, you are so lucky you have all these people who love you, have such a big support system. And you just talk to us about how you're feeling. If you don't want to call her grandma, you don't have to call her grandma. But let's have some opportunities just to spend time together and to understand that it's not an overnight process, that it just takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort from both the extended family member, adults, and the children to have fun activities together to build those relationships. So we try to maintain everything as a really casual environment. It wasn't, you're my new grandchild, I've got to do this. It just kind of let it naturally happen. But to understand that some kids are going to be really open and loving and want that, and some kids are going to push back. But if you just keep showing up, and even if it's quietly showing up, they're eventually going to see that and feel that and know that you love them. And I feel like that gives the opportunity for the relationship to really grow.
Yeah, I remember watching the episode when Amy's mom came to visit, and I loved her energy with all of you guys. It's so welcoming and warm, and and I also love what you say just about not pressuring the kids to feel a certain way or act a certain way towards these new, grandparents, and give them the time and the space that they need. We've talked, you and I, in a private message before, that I just love that you do that with your kids, because I think it's so important not to not to pressure children in these situations, and to allow them to speak honestly about how they're feeling, because it is difficult for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Stepfamily Saturday Series. We hope you've enjoyed the second of a three-part interview with Erica from the Blended Bunch. You can find season 1 of the show on Discovery Plus. Tune in next Saturday to hear the final part of our interview with Erica, and have a wonderful day.